Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final webinar in the series about localizing your radio station. This is going to be a little bit different than what a lot of you have been used to. We don't have a presentation today. This is just going to be a chat, and we can all talk about questions that you have, concepts that you're wondering about, some things that have happened over the last 6 episodes of Localize, Maximize, Monetize. And I have a guest with me today from the local radio newsletter, Jay Mitchell. Good morning, Jay, or good afternoon to you. Jay's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah, I appreciate being here.
Morning, Jay.
Real honor. Can you hear me?
Well, thank you for joining, and also for being a part of the a sponsor of the webinar series that we've just had. Localize, Maximize, Monetize has been presented by the local radio newsletter. Why don't you talk about your newsletter a little bit? I've been talking about it for 6 weeks, so why don't you talk about it now and tell everybody what they get out of the newsletter?
You've done such a fine job of talking about it, but basically it started about 45 years ago. As the small market radio newsletter, and I took it over about 20 years later. And just in the past 6 months or so, it became pretty obvious that we'd kind of outgrown the name, and we're focused more on local radio. And the way we define that is basically that we're here for broadcasters for whom local business is a priority and community involvement is a passion. And that pretty well defines, I think, the people who are on these webinars as well as our readership.
Well, it's a terrific newsletter. It's published every Thursday, right?
Yes, it is. 52 weeks a year.
Yep. 52 weeks a year. It comes out on Thursdays, and you owe yourself, do yourself a favor by at least getting a sample of it or doing a demo of it. Sign up for a month. You're going to love it. And then once you love it in the first month, sign up for a year and go to the special link. That, in fact, I will put that link up on the webinar right now. So you can save 25% on an annual subscription by going to that link. You're going to want to do that and save 25% off. And that's for an annual subscription. So, yeah.
Yeah, you'd also mentioned the free trial, and that's certainly an alternative. If somebody wants to just get 8 free weeks to check it out, there's a sign-up form on the side of every page of the website where they can do so. And that, if you don't feel like taking the plunge, even though it's a dirt cheap rate to start with, that's an alternate that people can explore.
All right, terrific. Well, today's and a lot of people are just signing in and logging on right now, so we're getting ready to start. But today we're taking your questions, and it can be about local radio. It can be about the seminars that we've done over the last 6 weeks or so. It can be about something that's unrelated to that. If you've got a general question about radio or personality radio or promotion or marketing or sales or how to generate new business in today's environment, we are wide open. It's like the office is open. The office hours are open, and you can ask Jay and I questions. You can challenge us if we've introduced some concepts over the past few weeks that you go, that doesn't make any sense for us. You don't know what you're talking about. Let's talk about it. Yeah. And the way to do that is through, there's a couple of ways to do it. Number one, you can type it in the chat box. Just click on chat in your menu tools, and you can type it in chat. If you want to remain anonymous, you can type it into the Q&A only box, and that'll come to me. I'll read the question, and we can respond to it. If you want to appear on it and have a dialogue, you can click on the raise your hand. It says speak. It's on the right-hand side of the tool menu, all the way at the bottom. Click on speak. We'll activate it, and you'll be able to talk in the webinar. So we're happy to have you on. This is one of the few times that we open it up to let everybody have their voice and have their voice heard. So We'll get started. A few days ago, I put on social media that if anybody had questions in advance to submit them, and I've got a bunch of them. So, but before we get to that, we want to prioritize the ones who are here live. So type your questions in now or raise your hand to speak, and we'll come to you right away. But in the meantime, Jay, let's talk about the local seminar series that we've just completed. We started back in the early June, and we finished it last week. And we've covered just about everything from on-air to personality performance, programming concepts, how to localize syndicated product, events and event marketing, and doing live broadcasts on location. What are some of your takeaways and some of your observations that you've taken from that?
Well, basically, what I've learned from what you've been talking about is that there are a lot of commonalities across the board for local radio, number one. And number two, there are indeed differences between and among different stations based on what is important to that market. In some cases, it'll be something like the team, in some markets, people are a lot more engaged with high school football, for example. And so if that's a market where that's a very big priority within the market, then it's a big priority for you. And I think that's really the bottom line. It's whatever is the priority in your market is what's got to be your priority as well. And that's primarily what I've taken away from that, along with some geeky stuff like ways of phrasing your ChatGPT prompts. But in terms of radio, I think that's the big takeaway that I've had from it.
And learning to plug into that market is the trick. One of the questions that had come in this week is how do we know what is relevant in a local market? Because it came from a program director who asked about, and I don't have the question in front of me, so I'm paraphrasing it, but asked about the difference between being local and the value of being local against putting a priority on entertainment value, especially in smaller and medium markets. And what's that balance? Where do you go with that? And how do you which one should you prioritize?
Yeah, and the thing that I find with program directions, by the way, I might mention that in addition to the local radio newsletter, which I've been publishing for years and years, I was a programmer, a manager, an owner, a consultant myself. So I kind of relate to a lot of the challenges that we face in pretty much any market. And one of the things that I have found with programmers is that they have the emphasis on the wrong syllable. They're more worried about breaking records than they are about breaking local news. And I think that's a misstep. I mean, in many of these markets, I respect the fact that there are many gifted programmers who love music and have great ears, and that's great. But in a local market, you play the hits and you serve the community. It's real simple.
That's such an interesting point, JB. I've seen this throughout my career too, as a programmer, and especially when I got into management. There's so many people in this business who got into radio because they love music, and when they were growing up, they discovered music by listening to the radio and said, "Man, that's what I want to do. I want to be in a place where I can show my appreciation for music." Well, music's a part of a radio station. But if you're in radio because you love the music business, you're in it for the wrong reason. Music is a tool that we use to entice, to seduce, to hold an audience, and to build fans. It shouldn't be your reason for wanting to be on the radio. It can make it more fun, but there's a difference in your personal music taste and that desire to break that song, to find that next hit, and doing the right things that are going to appeal to your audience. And I think a lot of today's programmers don't look at it that way. They look at it as I'm in the music business. I'm not in the entertainment business.
No, that's very true. In fact, it really becomes critical in the morning. And I know that you that specialized in working with morning shows. And is it not true that most good morning shows don't play a lot of music to begin with? And so it becomes very important what songs they do play.
Yeah, you said it very well about a little bit ago about playing the hits. Yeah, when we start working with a new morning show on every radio station, we tell them that we have one goal for them. There are many goals, but our number one goal is that we take all the music off their show.
Absolutely,
that's the goal. That's where we want to get. Now you have to earn that. You don't take it off and hope they become good at it. But you want to create that demand that you transcend that, because if a radio station today in any size market, doesn't matter where you are or what format you're in, if you're depending on the elements to drive your brand, you're on a one-way trip to oblivion.
That's very
it used to be, and I had a mentor of mine once told me that radio used to have 4 different hills that we could own. And if you could own one of those hills, you could be successful. If you claimed 2 of them, you would be very successful. If you got 3 of them, you would be dominant. And if you got all 4, you'd be legendary. Well, those hills are,
what are those hills, Tracy?
Wasn't that a great tease? See? So here's the payoff. The hills are, 1 is a music position. Number 2 is information. Number 3 is promotion, and number 4 is personality. Well, think about what has happened in radio even over the last decade. You can't be the number 1 outlet for music because Spotify does it better. And there's streaming everywhere. There's so many more options that you cannot win a position that's defendable just by having music. I was in a focus group not that long ago, and I was conducting it, and I asked the panel how important it was to them for a radio station to play the best songs on the radio. And one of them raised their hand and said, "Why would any radio station not play the best songs?" I don't understand the question. And I went, "Yeah, you're right. If you're not playing my favorite song, that button's not very far away. So you can't win music anymore. That's not a defendable hill." The second one was information. Where do you get information? You want to know what the weather is going to be today? Do you wait for it to come on the radio? You want to know what the traffic situation is? I've got an app for that. You want to know what breaking news is? I've got a news feed for that. By the time you put it on the radio, the audience already knows about it. And by the way, that doesn't mean that news, traffic, weather, music are unimportant. They're important ingredients, but you can't win a position anymore from music or information. The third was promotion. Promotion today, Mr. Beast does better promotions than any radio station on the planet. It commands more attention and does it well. And the thing that drives me crazy is that Mr. Beast is doing promotions that we've done in radio for decades and is getting all the credit for it. We've given up that position.
And he's doing it. One of my favorite expressions was one of my clients one time said, "It worked so well, we quit doing it."
Yeah, I know, right? We just gave up that hill. And so a lot of stations have gone to cash giveaways and group contesting. And again, there's nothing wrong with those things. Those are important ingredients in building your brand. But your $1,000 when you announce the winning name 5 times a day, how does that stack up against the lottery where I can win $1 billion when it gets up to that level?
I want to interject a question that I've been asking a lot of my programmer friends. I wanted to get your take on it too. We're in this age of national contests, whether it's through one of the big group owners or the Independent Broadcasters Association, whatever. But the odds of winning for me as an entrant are minuscule. So my question to you is, in a local market, do the rules apply that the bigger the prize, the better the engagement?
Jay, you're setting me up to tease an upcoming seminar.
My pleasure.
I've got a ton of research on this and firsthand experience, and I could tell you that virtually all of the contests that radio stations are doing anymore appeal to a smaller and smaller percentage of your listening audience.
Yes.
It's the number of people that are playing your contest. And I'm talking, there's a difference between contests and games. Games are something that I can, if you watch a game show on TV, that's a game. If you listen to a game on the radio, like $1,000 Minute or a trivia game or Name That Tune, things like that, those are games that have prizes attached. And there's entertainment value that comes along with it. But we're talking about contests that are the $1,000, listener of the day, the listener of the hour, text to win, ninth caller wins. Those type of contests are done for one specific reason. And again, it's a value. I'm not criticizing it because it's a valuable reason. But the only reason to do those contests is to manipulate the rating system, because it does not manipulate, it does not impact the listening audience. It only activates the contest players.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Yeah, 100% of your engagement is coming from someone who is already listening, or someone who is so addicted to contests that they will tune in and play your game at the time that you told them to. And that's maybe 1 to 2% of your total listening audience. Now, the reason those things work and so many people are doing it is because the 1 or 2% that play are also the ones who will take the call when the rating service calls and says, would you like to participate in this survey?
Yeah.
They are meter carriers and diary keepers. So if ratings are important to you, it's probably important to do contests on your station to manipulate that, but keep it in perspective. A lot of times you are driving your actual listeners off your station because they're never going to play, they don't care, and it's noise to them.
Good point. Good point.
Now on your question about the difference between local and national, since contests only appeal to that small minority of people who are reacting to the prompt, we'll call them prize pigs, affectionately known as prize pigs.
Yes.
It only affects the prize pigs. Since it only affects them, and I suddenly forgot where I was going with that. Not only can it be highly effective in manipulating the rating system, but since it affects them, those prize pigs don't care if the contest is local or national or what their odds are. You ring the bell and they respond. And I've done tons of research into this, and I've got stations who say, we're live and local. We're the local station. We have local winners, and they're trying to position themselves against their competition who's doing national contests.
Yeah.
But your actual listener, the people in your community, 98% of them don't care because they aren't playing your contest anyway. And the 2% that do care about playing the contest, they don't care if it's national or local. So your positioner that we have local winners means absolutely nothing to any of them.
Okay.
It's not a good way to be local. Better way of doing it is make it a game and then embed a lot of local references into it, the way we talked about in the first couple of seminars in this series.
Tracy, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but we do have a couple of questions in the chat room. One from Gary Rainville. He said, so far as mornings, should I actually be playing minimum amount of music? We run the TJ show, not always easy to program around.
So every show should has to, I call it earning the right to talk. And if you are a member of the Insiders Radio Network, or even if you're not, go there and do a search for a concept that I call the personality success path. It's 5 steps of audience engagement, and that will dictate how much you should talk and how much music you should play. If the 5 stages of growth through the personality success path are introduction. It's just like that. It's just like a relationship with somebody that you're interested in falling in love with and living happily ever after. You have to be introduced first. Second stage is getting familiar with that person to decide if you even like them or not. Stage 3 is growth. The relationship starts to grow. Stage 4 is like. and stage 5 is love, and we live happily ever after. Well, relationships with your audience develop exactly the same way. And if you behave as if you're in stage 5 of the personality success path is music is like a commercial to your audience, because they're listening for you. They can't wait to hear what's happening in your life and what's going on with you, because they've got that, they've fallen in love with you. They've made that commitment. They're a dedicated fan. They're a loyal listener. And that's where you want to end up. But if you behave like you're on stage 5, when you're in reality in stage 1, what happens? You're that creep who comes up and hits on someone at a club, and you want to get as far away from them as possible because they're arrogant, they're self-absorbed, and nobody cares. When you're in that early relationship, stage 1 and stage 2, which is, again, introduction and familiarity, and even into stage 3 growth, when you're in those early stages, you want to be the one who finds out what the audience likes and pretend that you like it too. Just like when you're dating someone for the first time, those first couple of dates, you want to talk about them and their interests, so you show that you have things in common. And as they enjoy being around you because of the way you make them feel, they start to get to know you. As they get to know you, they want to be around you more. And as that relationship grows, you start reducing the amount of music you play because you're taking on a higher role in their life. But you don't do it all at once. You don't say, this is where we want to end up, so let's behave that way and wait for them to discover us, because it'll never happen.
Okay. And I have nothing to add to that. That's a good answer as far as I'm concerned. Now, Raymond, let's see, Shyla Nathan had asked, what advice do you give PDs looking for talent? And what advice do you give potential talent getting a gig, not just any gig, a quality one? How many hours do we have?
Exactly. Well, okay. So if you're a PD looking for talent, message Shyla Nathan right now and do whatever you can do to hire her. Seriously, I know Shyla, she's terrific. It's a crime that she is not on a radio station today, because she has a combination of likability. She's clever. She's funny. She is what a woman desires to be, and she can hang with the guys and put them in their place. I mean, she is the whole package. And I recommended her at multiple radio stations, and nothing has worked out. And it's one of my goals is to get her on a place that I'm consulting, because I think she'd be a blast to work with. So, PDs, hire Shyla. That's
sounds good. Yeah, if I had a station, I'd hire her myself.
Yeah. But Jay, if you were a personality, or if your kid or somebody that you were mentoring as a personality and as a potential talent that wants to get a gig, how do they go about it? What would you do in that situation?
It's very tough. It's for one thing, I myself as a programmer, and I think most programmers, when they listen to an audition, they'll give it 2 or 3 minutes. And that seems like you're not giving it enough time, but in reality, you really kind of are, because if they can project personality that's likable, relatable in a few seconds, they're going to get the gig. If they can't, then what do I care if I get an hour air check? It's not going to prove anything one way or the other. So I would say the first thing is, if you are a talent, you have to become a salesperson.
Yeah.
And you think about ways of cutting through. How do you get the package on the PD's desk? How do you get the package to get opened? And by the way, this is very old school, but I'm suggesting that you use snail mail instead of email, or instead of that, because that doesn't have the same value. But if you can put something on the programmer's desk that doesn't stack well, you're going to get attention to that package, and that package will be open. That's step 1, getting the package on the desk. Step 2 is getting the package open. Step 3 is getting them to do something with the contents of the package. So the first thing that the PD has to see coming out of the package is something that's going to compel him or her to listen to the audition. And you got to go. And I'll tell you something. It's like any process. It is a numbers game. And to Shyla, anybody else who's having a lack of success in getting through, first check your presentation, and secondly, don't think that you're going to get hired by that dream station that you've always wanted to work for. You need to make a real long list of stations that you would work for as a stepping stone and go from there. So that's my advice.
Yeah, and Jay, you're right. We need 3 hours to unpack how you go about doing this. All of is really good advice. And Gary put a comment in here that getting a gig is a lot harder now than it was in the good old days, and it is. It's really, really hard for some of the reasons that Jay pointed out. But the other reason is that jobs in radio are not paying what they were paying 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because revenues in radio have come down so much. So if you're in Des Moines,
don't get me started on that one.
Yeah, well, if you're a personality in Fargo, North Dakota, or Des Moines, Iowa, and you've been there a long time and you're doing well and you've commanded an audience, let's say you're in stage 5 of that personality success path I've been talking about, you're probably doing pretty well. You're probably making more money than they would pay someone new coming into that station or that market. But you want to move up. You want to move to a different market. You're brand new in that new market, and there's no PD there's few PDs. You want to work for these PDs who are willing to take a risk and willing to take a chance and willing to bet on their intuition that you're going to make a difference and invest in you. But there's companies that are behind that are also making that decision, and they're not going to pay you enough to uproot your family, move halfway across the country from Des Moines, and take a chance at a new job. It's just not happening like it used to. And then when you do get that job, there's a lot more expectation from that company. They'll give you 6 months and say, wait, the ratings haven't moved at all, and you're not doing social media as well as we would like. And then they start looking at you funny. It's a really, really difficult environment right now.
Yeah.
So to me, the best way to go about getting it is to identify the right, as Jay said, the right situations. It's not necessarily that station I want to be at, but the program directors, the consultants, the managers, the company that represents who I would like to work for. Identify the markets you don't want to work in or the part of the country you don't want to work in and ignore that. Identify the parts of the country or the parts of the world that you do want to work in and put a priority on that, but keep your options. The other thing is don't limit your format. I've talked to a lot of personalities who are terrific, and they say, well, I want to work at a CHR station, or I want to work at a country station. You know, some of the best morning shows on country stations came from CHR.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were talking about before about you're not in the music business. You're in the entertainment business, and you could just as easily play country as play CHR. Now, if you're in it because you're a music fan and you want to play Dua Lipa songs because you love Dua Lipa, then you're probably not going to be a very good performer. Not a very good. You might be a good DJ, but you're not going to be a great personality.
And that's the difference. That's the difference between professionals. If you're a professional radio person, you are going to apply your craft however it needs to be applied in that situation. And the other thing I'd say about the range of potential stations that you might want to consider, get a call back. If you get a call back, you can decide whether to take the gig if one is offered to you. So I'd say even those regions of the country that don't make sense to you, it's good practice, if nothing else.
A general manager, when I was a program director, a general manager told me once that good selling is never wasted. So the more relationships you can create, and especially with people who talk to other people, It starts to build a buzz in the community. So when a program director, when a VP of programming or a market manager has an opening, they start asking their colleagues, hey, I don't even know where to start. Who do you got? Do you have anybody I should talk to? And your name comes up 3 or 4 times. They start to remember you. It's just like we talked about in the personality success path. The more familiar, you get the introduction, you get familiarity, it starts to grow. People in the industry start to like you. They start to talk about you. That's when things start to happen. And your overnight success is weeks or months or years of hard work behind the scenes making that happen. So build relationships. Build relationships with people like Jay, who have a weekly local radio newsletter that goes out to hundreds of people, and they probably are looking for talent all the time, and build a relationship with me.
Absolutely. I welcome that. I know you'll welcome that too. Because
that's what. And I tell you, we want to help people. We want to help broadcasters get the best talent. We want to see talent thrive and succeed.
That's right, and that makes the industry better too. Because right now, my viewpoint is that there's a paucity of talent because the farm teams are drying up. We don't have that night, weekend, overnight position as we used to, which is where a lot of us developed whatever chops we have. And so it's very important when you see somebody, listen, whenever you travel, listen to other radio stations and find out what they're doing and how they're doing it. It's going to help your performance as well.
Jay, here's a question from Vinny. Says, what are your thoughts about playing newer music in mornings on a CHR station? The thought process always was that it had to be familiar, but people have more access now. By the time we put it into high rotation, they're already fed up with it. What are your thoughts?
I don't agree, respectfully. I think that it's important. I mean, first of all, I take your point that we were discussing earlier about the ultimate goal of a morning show is not to play any music. And so the music becomes one element that you look at as, is this a weak point or is it a strong point? And if you're playing any music at all, it should be the strongest music possible. And I don't, people are getting tired of music. That's what they'll say, but that's not how they behave.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. And Vinny makes a good point about the access to new music. And it's probably true by the time you put it into a high rotation, the ones who are really music enthusiasts, those fans, and they're the ones who will call you. And they're the ones who come to your events and say, why do you play the same 12 songs over and over? Don't you we get enough Taylor Swift. You're making me sick. I can't stand it anymore. I always had a saying on the stations that I programmed that by the time that you're getting sick of it and your most active, loud listeners are telling you that you play it too much, most of your audience is just starting to learn the words. And they probably still don't know who sings it.
Well, a lot of times, depending on the station, of course, this is not general advice, but a lot of times when I evaluate the music that a radio station is playing, I flip the recurrents and the currents. Mm-hmm. I want them to play more recurrents than they do currents.
Yep.
Because that's the music that everybody hates all the time. And they listen for hours to the music they hate. So, yeah.
I'll give you a couple of questions or a couple of examples of that. Spotify puts out a lot of research. I really love Spotify, and one of the reasons is because they share their data very quickly. And if you build Spotify playlists, the more it learns about you, the more it serves up things that they think you're going to like. And one of the things that Spotify has discovered over time is that music discovery causes people to tune out and skip songs more. When it starts serving them songs that are less familiar from less familiar artists, skips go way up.
Yeah.
It's why do people listen to music? They listen to music to hear their favorite songs, to hear their hits. Here's another experiment. Maybe you put a lot of music on your phone, or you've got a big Spotify playlist, and it's all those songs that you're familiar with and those songs that you like. So everything on there is something that you've chosen to have in that playlist. When you're actually listening to it, you're driving in your car, you've got your headphones on a plane, and you're actually listening to it, and a song that you're familiar with and that you have chosen isn't one of your favorites, isn't one that you would turn it up, I want to hear this again, this is awesome. What do? You skip it. And it's a song that you've chosen. And listeners do the same thing on the radio. So it's really important to be able to look at your audience as a collection of people that, because no matter how much we would like to personalize radio, we are in the mass appeal business. We're programming to the masses, and to get to the masses, you've got to play the masses' favorite songs. We can't change that. We can't personalize the radio station. I had a great example. I was working with a classic hit station, and there's an old 80s song by Go West called The King of Wishful Thinking. It might have been 90s. It was a nice song. It was a modest hit when it was out. I played it as a current. It probably was a good B at the time. And it's upbeat and it sounds good. And we had it in a music test, and it came back right in the middle. It was playable based on our standards, but I looked at it and the PD said, "Oh, that's great. It's got tempo. It's got texture. It's a song that we haven't been playing for a while. It'll add more variety to the station. Look at this. So there's no hates on it. People don't hate it." And I said, "Yeah, but look at the loves. Nobody loves it." It had like 4% love and 3% hate. Everything was in the middle. It was, I like it, or I dislike it, or it's okay. It tested playable when you looked at all of that. But when that actually comes on the radio, it's tune out.
Well, there's an old TV term, least objectionable programming.
Yeah.
And that's what a song like the Go West song represents. It's nobody's going to object to it, but they're not going to listen to you very long if you're playing a Go West weekend.
And to Vinny's point in the first question, because there's so many choices and there's so many things out there that by the time you put it in high rotation, they're already fed up with it. Because there are so many choices and there's so many places to get music, there's less tolerance for average or weak songs on your station.
Yeah.
So it's even more important to play those big hits. Now, one of the things that might help you get more aggressive is to look at, because songs are available and they're easier to market now, songs can become familiar much faster if it's a song that people or an artist that people really care about. Some of the stations I've worked with, some of our top 40 stations are playing their powers in about 70-minute rotations. So every hour and 10 minutes they're playing the same 4 songs. And you know what? It actually works. Especially when you consider listening patterns, or even your best listeners are tuned in for about 7.5 minutes per occasion. So that rotation works. And when you have a big hit artist, when Taylor Swift comes out and drops her new album, I'm telling them, take all the songs out of your A rotation, make them Bs, and put 4 cuts from the Taylor Swift album into As.
Right. And put all your Taylor songs in heavier rotation. Yeah.
So capture the buzz, but make sure you're capturing the buzz with the right songs and the right artist. You can't do that with an unfamiliar song or an artist or song that nobody cares about, because now you're just causing tune out.
No, that's exactly right. And whether we like to admit it, the days of radio being the big hit making machine, maybe not as much as it used to be. Say, here's a question that I don't want to forget. Raymond T., who asked earlier, how are the predictions looking around radio's future with cars, making it more and more around the streaming platforms being the first go-to in their cars? What's your thought on that?
I agree with that philosophy for a variety of reasons. Cars are making it harder to find AM and FM radio selections because everyone is gravitating towards streaming, and those dashboards are getting easier and easier to find the choice that you want. A lot of them have TuneIn Radio as an app that they've got every radio station in the world, and a lot of streamers that are not over the air. And so if you're not on that, if you're not available that way, that is a problem. One of the reasons, if you're in a PPM market, and a lot of you probably are in smaller markets that are still a diary methodology, so this doesn't apply directly to you, but in PPM markets, Nielsen has what they call a headphone bonus. My personal opinion is that Nielsen is doing this headphone bonus because they want to show that there's more quarter hours being listened to radio, which is also the reason they went to 3 minutes for a quarter hour instead of 5 minutes for a quarter hour, because now they can show that there's more listening taking place than is actually listening, which but that's a whole topic for a different discussion as well. Yeah. But the headphone bonus the philosophy is that a significant amount of app listening or online listening takes place with headphones. And if you're listening through headphones, their meters don't pick up the signal, so no ratings credit is being given for listening that's taking place. Well, they have no idea how much of that is actually real. So they artificially add a bonus to all streaming listening. So in most markets, up to 75%, and I've seen it in a couple of markets where they are bonusing 100% extra ratings. 100% extra.
We have met the enemy, and it is Nielsen.
Yeah. And so for a radio station, if you can get people listening to your stream and they have a meter and the meter picks it up, you're getting twice the listening credit as if they listen over the air. And then Nielsen also is crediting on-demand listening if that on-demand listening takes place within 24 hours of it first appearing on the air. So if let's say you do a segment, you do a second date update segment every day. And as soon as that airs at 7:15 in the morning, you put it up on your website. It's encoded audio that you put on your website. And you promote all day long. Listen, it's a great story. You got to listen to it. You're teasing it. You're promoting it aggressively. And someone with a meter goes and listens to that on demand. They're never exposed to your radio station. They're to the original content. They're never exposed to the commercials that air around it. So it's not doing your businesses any good. But if that person has a meter and that meter picks it up, you're not just getting ratings credit for 7:15 in the morning. You're getting double ratings credit.
Unbelievable.
And that's happening in every metered market.
Well, we've always had to play to the methodology, whatever. Yep. I mean, that's brilliant, actually.
It's a game.
Yeah.
I've got a book. If you want to get the book, you can go to Insider. You go to T. Johnson Media Group and click on Marketplace, tjohnsonmediagroup.com, and click on Marketplace. It's called The Ratings Game. And it explains some of this and what's going on and how it makes you crazy as a programmer, as a broadcaster, to see how this game is being played. But unless you understand the rules of the game, you can't play it effectively.
Yeah.
And it covers both metered markets and diary markets. But it's to get back to Raymond T's original question. You've got to be on in the cars. The cars are our last stand. We lost homes a long time ago. I'm a radio guy. I don't have a radio in my home.
I've got one.
Yeah, and that's common. I've seen it on TV shows and movies where they're making fun of grandma for having that radio. What's that doing here? Well, that doesn't mean that you're irrelevant. It means the way that the audio is being delivered is less relevant than it used to be. We've also lost the workplace for a variety of reasons that we really don't have time to go into, but we still have the car, but the car is becoming more and more difficult to get that presence. So top of mind awareness, big presence, reasons to seek you out and tune in. And yes, being on an app, being on your own app, making that app important, making sure that it works all the time. And being available, having unique content that people will seek out and making it available on the platform they want to hear it is really key.
Well, I agree. And I still find a lot of program directors who do not pay attention to their streams. They don't realize that there is a difference between the quality and the rhythm and the timing and the board work, if you can say that, in a stream than in live broadcast radio. And that's where people are going to consume your product now. More and more and more is on the stream, not on the radio set. So they've got to pay attention to that.
Gary follows up with a music question about if I put Taylor Swift in my A category, how do I control artist separation? Doesn't that clash? So like my example, if a Taylor song comes out, a Taylor album comes out, and you put 4 songs into power rotation, then you want to change your your artist separation to 15 or 20 minutes. So they'll schedule. But again, if you go back and look at how people are listening to the radio, how they're using your product from a user standpoint, they're not listening for 20 minutes most of the time. They're not. They're punching in and out. They're going all over. So the best thing that you can do is to be playing their favorite song, their most top of mind song, something exciting when they tune in. So adjust your artist separations accordingly. And now it's going to be different. I'm not giving you advice that this works on your station, Gary, necessarily, because I don't know your market well enough to give you that advice, or your format, or your presence, or your time spent listening. There's a lot of variables that affect that. But just in theory, get outside of your programming box of what we've always thought is this is our best practices, and get into the listener's world and how they're using us. And since they're listening less, there's if you really look at ratings behavior, the average P1 to your station is tuned in for about 7.5 minutes per occasion. That's P1s who prefer your station, to listen to your station more than any other. The average non-P1, a Cumer, a P2, a P3, a P4, the average time spent listening is 2.5 minutes. So they're not hearing that artist repetition like you are or your staff is. Now, the other part of it is if you do that, if you do what I suggested and take those Taylor songs and put 4 of them into power rotation when that album comes out, you don't leave it there for a month. It's for like 2 or 3 days when that album comes out, so you can get the presence. And then take the best songs of hers, put them back in a B rotation, or leave one in a power rotation, bring your powers back in, but you're creating an event out of something.
Well, Tracy, I know you've done a lot of focus groups, as have I, and I have yet to hear a radio listener say, I listen to KXXX because they play 4 A's an hour, 12 B's an hour, and recurrence are 4 times. No, nobody knows this stuff.
Yeah.
And I had this big argument about, back in the day, we would do separation of female artists.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody's nowadays, that's not Me Too enough. And I agree that the times have changed considerably, but people would castigate us for doing that. And the reason we did it was simply because of the lack of female artists.
Exactly. The right reason to do that is for balance on your radio station.
That's right.
It's not because you don't want to play 2 female artists back to back, but because there's a lack of female content. So you don't want to play 12 males in a row.
Right. Exactly. Vinny Baruco says, what are your thoughts on playing newer music in mornings, CHR? The thought process was always that it has to be familiar, but people have. Oh, I think we repeated that. Sorry.
Yeah, we did that. We got that one.
Okay. Raymond had another one here. Considering us as talent and personalities, and we're supposed to be the entertainment, how much does the AI? The AI word has appeared. Conversation now interfere with the human connection to listeners.
Here's another one. We can do a series of seminars on this. And as a lot of you probably know, I'm heavily involved with AI through one of our sponsors, which we haven't talked about yet, Radio Content Pro. I helped develop this about 3 years ago, and we started using AI and AI prompts to be a tool for radio station to help radio stations. And it's remarkable how well it how well it works. You really should look it up. And as we're talking in this series about local content, there's a feature of it called Local Beat, which every radio station should have Local Beat. If you care about your local community at all, you should have Local Beat. It's dirt cheap, it's affordable, and it's fantastic. So get Local Beat. You can get it at radiocontentpro.com. So I got a lot of background in AI. I use it all the time, and it's Jay and I are old enough to remember when personal computers first came along back in the late 70s, early 80s.
With those blazing 250 color screens.
Right. And the 5 1/4 inch floppy disks.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is how we first got the radio RCS music scheduler came out. And it was there were 8 floppy disks to run the music scheduling program. It took a half hour to schedule a day's music before you started managing it. And were constantly changing those floppy disks. Well, that came out, and I was a music director in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and was one of the first 10 stations to use it. And everybody else in the industry was saying, this is going to ruin radio. This is horrible. How can you let a machine schedule music? A machine can't do it the way humans can do it. Mm. How antiquated does that sound now? Could you imagine programming your radio station or programming a music log without a computer to help you? It doesn't mean the computer chooses what goes on. It means it helps you schedule it better. It helps make you more efficient. And I think that's how you have to look at AI. And AI is getting better by leaps and bounds, almost by the day. It's unbelievable what it's capable of doing if you use it the right way and if you make it your assistant. There are some things that are coming out with AI. You've all heard AI voice. There are some things with AI voice and AI video that you cannot tell if it's human or machine. You can't. And that's going to continue. And we're not far away from having the technology to be able to take content that's been created, curate it through AI prompts, and feed it into AI and have it create a conversation like a morning show would have, and have it be focused, having it be tight, having it be connected through personality traits that are fed into the AI, so the characters represent exactly what they want it to be, and consistent. It's going to be technically better than anything your stations are doing.
See, that's both an opportunity and a big challenge for us. Yeah. And by the way, the one thing that they haven't been able to do yet, but it's probably not that far off, is interacting personalities. A team of people interacting with one another.
Jay, it's not far away.
No, it's not.
And in fact, at Radio Content Pro, we've been experimenting with that, and we pretty much have it down.
Really?
It's not ready to release yet, and I won't go into too much detail, but it's amazing what it can do. Now, what's it missing? It's missing Raymond's last few words there: human connection to listeners, heart, passion, personality. There's something that is disconnected between what the AI does and what a real, authentic personality that's gotten to talk about the personality success path that's gotten to level 4 and level 5. Stage 4 and stage 5 are like and love. You get to that in that type of a relationship with your listeners, AI can't compete with that. But if you're in stage 1, 2, and 3, where it's introduction, familiarity, and growth, you better be really good and on a path to get to stage 4 and 5, because AI can replace that. Or it can't right now, but it's very close to being able to replace that. It will not replace those who are meaningful, difference-making personalities, difference-making characters who are making an impact in listeners' lives. It will not replace that, but it'll replace everything else, and we're not far away from that happening.
So what does that mean about the job market and the jocks who are looking for work right now?
I think those. I think there will be fewer jobs eventually. I think that's going to happen one way or another anyway. A lot of companies, even in smaller and medium, even in major markets, are syndicating more. They're taking the best talent in one market and putting them on in multiple markets over and over and over, just because of cost efficiencies, which has its benefits and it has its challenges at the same time. AI is going to speed that up. Technology always speeds up the direction of where an industry is going, and AI is the technology that's going to make a lot of this even more possible. So my advice is, yeah, Vinny, great. AI is a kick in the ass for personalities to make a difference in their communities. That's it. You said that better than what I was about to try and say. That's exactly right.
Great expression. Yes.
Yeah. Make a difference in your community and you're bulletproof. Now, how can you make a difference in your community? Better learn how to use AI. Use it as a tool, because if you're not using it to your advantage, you're competing with it.
Also, we have a review question from Gary. Talk, if you can, a little bit about events that are more than a tent. How to make your event more than a remote.
Okay, if you were on the sixth in the series, was called Beyond the Tent. It focused on when you should do live broadcasts or when you should not do live broadcasts, what makes a good one, what makes a bad one, how to control it, what to do there to really make an impact when you're out there. And number 5 in the series, again, it was Localize, Maximize, Monetize, and you can see all of them at insidersradionetwork.com. You can watch them on demand. But number 5 was about live events and things to do at live events, how to manage it, how to control it. So a couple of things, making it more than a tent and making it more than a remote is, it all comes down to choosing the events that you allow your station to be at and to broadcast live from carefully and productively. And Gary, I think, said he was in Lawton, Oklahoma. So you're in a smaller market, and when you're out at those remotes and events, the guy from the pawn shop wants you to come out and do a live broadcast at the pawn shop. Well, my view on that is that there's no such thing as a absolute no, but just because it's not a no doesn't make it a yes. The key is, how are we going to look there? How is it going to be staged there? What does the client really want from this? Not what the AE comes back and tells you the client wants, because a lot of times they don't know. They're just trying to sell an ad schedule. They're just trying to get the buy. So if you go out into that community and you find out, okay, this guy at the pawn shop, what does he really want? He wants people to come in here and he wants to sell them some stuff. So there's probably a bunch of ways. Well, how do you think you're going to sell him some stuff? Well, I want to be a guest. I want to be on that remote. I want you to be on here doing your show live. I want 4 or 5 minute breaks an hour. I want to be 2 hours on Saturday morning, and I want to be involved so I can tell them about all of these things that I have for sale. That's going to be really boring, and it's not going to drive people to come in there. In fact, people will probably avoid it because they don't want to talk to this guy. Right. So there's other ways of doing that. If you're creative and you give them the tools, almost like a menu, whether that's social media presence, maybe you do the live broadcast on YouTube Live or on Facebook Live. You can have a presence at the event. You're playing games, play your signature games. If your morning show does $1,000 minute or some of those signature games that you do on a regular basis, maybe you're taking the live version out to that event and you're playing with listeners for a couple of hours, and it just happens to be at the pawn shop. That's going to bring people down to the pawn shop. And while they're there, they have a good experience with that business, with that owner. And you're showing some traffic coming through there. But if you're saying you should come down here because they've got great jewelry, you really should buy. If you're thinking about getting engaged, this is where you want to come.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that I've noticed also is that very few people are interested in going to remote to see a radio personality anymore. And that's why the content of the remote, the games, the enticements have got to be a part of it. And the whole thing has to be very well planned, which you've made abundantly clear time and time again, Tracy.
Yeah. Make it a show. Don't just show up, show off. And so, if the remote, the location doesn't allow for that, then there are other things that you can do to make that business successful without being out there doing a live broadcast or a remote. So you don't have to do that remote. But one of the points that we made in it was either number 5 or number 6 was it's all about getting on the same page internally. What do we do? What are we willing to do? Making sure that AE doesn't say yes to the client before they clear it through management and programming. Because if they come back and say, I got this client who wants, this is what they want to do, and this was their idea, you can now brainstorm and go back to them with an enthusiastic, better idea that will accomplish what they want to accomplish, and it works better for everybody.
Well, it's all about buy-in, really. I mean, I'm a big fan, particularly in smaller markets where you don't have a lot of people to begin with. As many people as possible should show up at the event. Number one, everybody should know about the event so that when you get the phone calls about it, they can get a cogent explanation.
Yep, exactly. Let's see if there are any other questions. Anything else comes to mind? We're probably going to wrap up here. We've been on for an hour. Thank you for all your time and attention. I just put up Local Beat. If you're interested in Local Beat, there's a link there to Radio Content Pro where you can find out about it. And in the chat, I'm also going to put up a link. There it is. I just put up a link. It's a survey that I really appreciate if you filled out. Just click on that. It's asking about the Localize, Maximize, Monetize series that we just completed. It's the first time I've done a series of seminars on the same topic. And I want to know what you think about that. If you liked it, one of the benefits of it is it allowed me to keep the presentation part of it a little shorter. Most of them were about 30 minutes. I know the last one went about 45, but most of them were about 30 minutes. So it was shorter. But there was more depth when you add them all together. It was in a series of 6. And I don't know if that is something that you're more interested in, less interested in, if you like that better than doing one that's maybe 45 minutes or an hour, but it hits on the surface. And also this particular seminar where Jay and I just came on and answered your questions. I'm interested in finding out what you think about those things. It's take you about 2 minutes to answer them. There are multiple choice questions except for the last one, and it gives you a chance to type anything you want in there. So if you would fill that out and that would come back, it would really help because I've got a couple of ideas for seminar series for the fall, and I want to make sure that it's something that it's that you would like to see.
Well, I'm not going to answer your darn survey, but I will tell you live and in person that I was very, very impressed with the whole series. And I like the concept of the deep dive into a particular focus. That made a lot of sense to me. And frankly, gave us an opportunity to learn more about your programming philosophy, which has been extremely successful. And I learned a lot from it. And I'm not ashamed to say that. So as far as I'm concerned, big thumbs up on it.
Thank you, Jay. And thank you for your partnership in the whole series. You really should sign up for that 8 weeks of the local radio newsletter trial. Go to the localradionewsletter.com and sign up for that. You're going to love it. And then you can sign up for the annual and save 25% off with that TJ special link. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you coming to the series. And Jay, thanks for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me, Tracy.